I know better than that. I promised myself I would never, never fall into bed with a gentleman, and I broke that promise. For you! And your stupid hair, and your stupid eyes, and that stupid smile.
Good thing I'm no gentleman.
It's not a joke, Benedict.
I know. I took what happened last night with the utmost seriousness. I was not caught up. I love you, Sophie.
Bridgerton Season 5 is coming, and the details that are already surfacing are the kind that make you put your phone down, stare at the ceiling, and genuinely wonder how this show keeps doing this. Because just when you think you understand where Bridgerton is going, just when you think you have the ending figured out, and the love story mapped, and the drama predicted, the show pulls the floor right out from under you. And Season 5 is doing exactly that. Everything you thought you knew about these characters, about these love stories, about where this world was heading, is about to be completely rewritten. And we are here to walk you through every single detail, because once you hear all of this, you will not be able to stop thinking about it. Let's start with the thing that is going to change the entire energy of Season 5 before a single new romance even begins. At the end of Season 4, Penelope Bridgerton put down the quill. Lady Whistledown was retired. The column that had driven 3 entire seasons of drama, scandal, heartbreak, and chaos was officially done. And for a moment, it felt like an era had ended, like the show had closed a chapter so completely that nothing could ever fill that space again. And then the season finale did something that nobody saw coming. A brand new Whistledown pamphlet started circulating across Mayfair. Fresh ink, new energy, a completely different voice. And the Ton had absolutely no idea who was behind it. Now here is why this matters so much more than people are giving it credit for. When Penelope was Whistledown, there was always a ceiling on how long the mystery could last. The books existed. Fans who had read them already knew. The show could tease the reveal, but it could never truly surprise the audience the way it wanted to. Showrunner Jess Brownell admitted this openly. The Penelope reveal had a time limit because the source material had already told that story. But this new Whistledown is something entirely different. This storyline was created specifically for the show. It exists nowhere in the books. It belongs completely to the television version of this world, which means for the very first time in Bridgerton history, nobody has the answer. Not the book readers, not the theorists, not the people who have been following the show since the very first episode. Everyone is on equal ground, and everyone is completely in the dark. And that changes the entire watching experience for Season 5 in a way that is genuinely difficult to overstate. Because now every character becomes a suspect, every quiet moment becomes a clue. Every scene where someone picks up a piece of paper or whispers something across a ballroom is going to feel loaded with possibility. The show has handed itself a mystery that it can actually play with freely, without the pressure of a predetermined answer sitting in a book on someone's shelf. And the audience is going to feel that freedom in every single episode. But here's where it gets even more layered. Because one of the most compelling theories is not about a stranger at all. It is about Penelope herself. Think about everything she went through to keep her identity hidden. 3 seasons of lying, hiding, deflecting, protecting a secret that cost her friendships, her reputation, and nearly her marriage. And then the moment she finally stepped into the light and let herself be known, something shifted. The freedom she had been chasing for so long suddenly felt heavier than the secret ever did. The anonymity that had once been a cage had also been a kind of armor, and without it, she was exposed in a way she had never had to be before. It is not impossible that Penelope faked the retirement, that the whole thing was a calculated move to reclaim her cover, while the Ton applauded her for giving it up. She is, after all, the most skilled liar in the entire show. She hid her identity from her husband for longer than anyone thought possible. She knows exactly how Whistledown works because she built it from the ground up. And if the new pamphlets have a different energy, a sharper tone, a slightly different rhythm, that could easily be Penelope writing differently on purpose, disguising her own voice the way a novelist disguises a character, which, not coincidentally, is exactly what she is now doing professionally. Because Penelope's story in Season 5 does not end with the Whistledown question. When we last saw her, she was sitting down to write a novel. Queen Charlotte had given her blessing. Penelope had stepped away from the column and was building something entirely new, something that carried her real name, her real voice, her real identity for the first time in her life. And Season 5 is expected to show both Penelope and Colin as published writers building a life together in the most public way possible. That is a version of Penelope Bridgerton that the wallflower from Season 1 would not have recognized. The girl who stood at the edges of ballrooms hoping nobody noticed her is now someone who puts her name on pages and hands them to the world. And that transformation is one of the most quietly powerful arcs this show has ever built. But the tension is not going away just because she found her footing. With a new Whistledown circulating and fresh scandals dropping all over Mayfair, Penelope is going to find herself caught between the life she is building and the game she knows better than anyone alive. She understands how this works. She knows what a pamphlet can do. She knows the damage it can cause and the power it carries. And whatever her involvement in the new Whistledown turns out to be, one thing is absolutely certain. Penelope Bridgerton is not going to sit quietly on the sidelines while someone else plays the game she invented. Season 5 is going to put her right back in the middle of it. And this time the stakes are even higher, because now everyone knows her name. While the Whistledown mystery is already rewriting the rules of the show, there is an entirely different kind of shift happening in Season 5 that is going to change the social landscape of the Ton in a way nobody has fully processed yet. And it starts with two women whose arcs in Season 4 quietly set up something enormous: Lady Danbury and Lady Mondrich. Because the way their stories ended in Season 4 was not just a conclusion, it was a handoff. And understanding what that handoff means is the key to understanding how the power in this world is about to be completely redistributed. Lady Danbury spent all of Season 4 doing what she has always done, working behind the scenes, pulling strings nobody else could even see, engineering outcomes that looked like luck to everyone watching, but were in reality the result of her precise and calculated brilliance. And the thing she spent most of Season 4 engineering was the legitimization of Sophie in the eyes of Queen Charlotte. Getting someone with Sophie's background accepted not just into the Ton, but into the Queen's good graces was the kind of social miracle that should have been impossible. Lady Danbury made it happen almost entirely on her own. And when it was done, when Sophie was standing in the light, with the Queen's approval behind her, Lady Danbury quietly closed up her house and prepared to leave for the countryside. Her work was finished. She gave herself the retirement she had more than earned, and just like that, one of the most powerful voices in the entire show walked out of the room. The absence of Lady Danbury in Season 5 is going to land differently than any other departure this show has ever done, because she was never just a character. She was a force. She was the person who could walk into any situation and immediately shift its gravity. She mentored, she protected, she challenged. She said the things nobody else was willing to say out loud, and the Ton without her voice in it is going to feel genuinely quieter in a way that even the new Whistledown cannot fill. There is going to be a vacuum where her influence used to be, and vacuums in Bridgerton never stay empty for long. Because stepping into that space, at least in part, is Lady Mondrich, and her positioning going into Season 5 is genuinely fascinating. Everything she did in Season 4, every move she made, every relationship she cultivated, every calculated act of grace under pressure, led to one specific outcome. She earned a seat next to Queen Charlotte herself, as a lady-in-waiting. And on the surface, that sounds like a reward, an honor, a happy ending to a difficult season. But anyone who has watched this show long enough knows that getting close to the Queen is never simply an honor. It is access. It is information. It is a front-row seat to every secret, every grudge, every scandal, and every plan that moves through the Ton. Lady Mondrich is about to know things that nobody else knows, and that makes her one of the most quietly dangerous and completely compelling characters heading into Season 5. She is coming into this role with something Lady Danbury never had in that specific position: freshness. The Queen is used to people who know how to perform around her. Lady Mondrich brings a perspective that is genuinely different from anything Charlotte has encountered at close range before. And that combination of access and perspective, and the particular kind of social intelligence that got Lady Mondrich to where she is in the first place, that is a combination that Season 5 is absolutely going to use. She is not going to be decoration beside the Queen. She is going to matter in a way that is going to surprise people who underestimated her storyline in Season 4. And then there is Violet. Violet Bridgerton, who has spent so many seasons standing at the edges of ballrooms, watching her children fall in love, one by one, while her own heart stayed carefully, quietly closed. She raised 8 children. She ran an entire household. She kept the family together through grief and scandal and chaos and change. And she did all of it while asking nothing for herself. But in season 4, something started to shift. Marcus Anderson, Lady Danbury's brother, has been showing up, having tea with Violet, paying attention to her in a way that Benedict noticed and commented on out loud. And in Bridgerton, when someone comments on it out loud, the show is telling you to pay attention. Season 5 is expected to push that tension towards something real. The expectation is that Violet will be faced with a choice that is more complicated than it looks from the outside. Because this is not simply about whether she loves Marcus. It is about what choosing him would mean. After years of defining herself through her children, through her role as a mother and a widow and a matriarch, choosing a life of her own would require her to redefine herself completely. And that is terrifying in a way that has nothing to do with Marcus Anderson at all. There is also the very real possibility that this love story does not follow the easy path. Because Violet has spent enough years being free that the idea of giving up any part of that freedom, even for someone she genuinely cares for, might be harder than it looks. Season 5 is going to sit with that tension, and it is going to be one of the most emotionally honest storylines the show has ever told. But as layered and emotional as everything else in Season 5 is shaping up to be, the 2 storylines that are going to define this season completely, the ones that are going to make audiences feel everything all at once, are the ones built entirely on love that had to survive something first before it could even begin. And both of them are going to hit in completely different ways. The first one is Francesca, and everything about where her story is going in Season 5 is almost too much to process if you think about it long enough. At the end of Season 4, John Sterling was gone. A brain aneurysm in the middle of the night. No warning, no goodbye, no chance for Francesca to prepare for any of it. She went from wife to widow in the span of 1 episode, and the brutality of that loss was made even more complicated by something the show had been quietly building all season long. Michaela, John's cousin, the person whose presence had been pulling at something in Francesca in a way that neither of them had fully named. And when John died, when the grief was still completely raw and completely fresh, Michaela had to leave, because staying was becoming something too complicated to navigate. And so she left. And now there is an entire slow-burn love story sitting between Francesca's grief and Michaela's absence, just waiting for Season 5 to finally tell it. This is not going to be a simple love story. It is not going to move fast or feel easy or resolve itself in a way that is clean and satisfying and tied with a bow. Because you cannot build a romance in the shadow of that kind of loss without the grief being part of every single moment of it. Every step Francesca takes toward Michaela is going to carry the weight of John. Every moment of joy is going to be complicated by the guilt that comes with feeling joy too soon. And Michaela is not going to be unaffected by any of that either, because John was her family. The emotional terrain this love story has to cross is unlike anything Bridgerton has ever attempted. And the showrunner has confirmed that Francesca's full season is coming. Season 5 is expected to be the build-up, the foundation. The slow and careful construction of something that will eventually become one of the most emotionally layered romances this show has ever put on screen. And then there is Eloise, and this is the one that is going to change everything, because Eloise Bridgerton has spent 4 full seasons being the loudest, most consistent, most committed voice against marriage in the entire show. She watched sibling after sibling fall into what she called the trap. She had opinions about every single one of their love stories. She said no so many times and in so many different ways that the audience genuinely started to believe her. And then the show did something quiet and brilliant. It gave her a pen pal. According to the source material, after Marina's death, Eloise sent a condolence letter to Sir Philip Crane. 1 letter, that was all it was supposed to be, but Philip wrote back, and then Eloise wrote back. And then without anyone planning it or performing for it or dressing up for it, something started to build in those letters. Wit. Honesty. The kind of real conversation that never happens in a ballroom because everyone in a ballroom is always playing a role. In letters, there is nowhere to hide, and Eloise Bridgerton has spent 4 seasons hiding in plain sight, being loud enough that nobody looked too closely at what was underneath. The letters stripped that away. And what Philip found on the other side was not the woman he had imagined. He expected someone manageable, someone agreeable, someone who might quietly slot into the life he needed someone to fill. What he got was Eloise, fully and completely and unapologetically herself, showing up at his door without an invitation, not performing, not adjusting, not shrinking, just arriving as exactly who she is and daring him to have a problem with it. That meeting is the moment Season 5 has been building toward since Sir Philip Crane was first introduced in Season 1. The show planted that seed 4 years ago, and most people did not even notice. And Season 5 is lining up a cast of characters who are all in the middle of exactly that question at the same time. Penelope building a new identity in public. Francesca learning how to love again after grief. Eloise confronting the possibility that everything she said she did not want might actually be exactly what she needs. Violet choosing herself for the first time. Lady Mondrich stepping into power she worked her entire arc to earn. And somewhere across Mayfair, a brand new Whistledown dropping pamphlets that nobody is ready for.